So welcome everyone, and thanks again for joining our webinar today. Definitely we have some surprises for you for the first webinar of a year, and actually the first training of a year. So thanks again for joining the session. I can see some names and some people also are joining from New Zealand. So thanks again, guys. I think it's a bit early evening on your side. So thanks for joining the session. And I can also see some familiar faces who comes to our training. So I'm glad that you guys made it to our training. So for those who don't know me, my name is Sebastien NG, and I'm the National Sales Manager at Fronius Australia. Basically, I look after the application engineers. So pretty sure some of you guys will have dealt with the application engineer. We basically come in, do trainings. We also help with different, let's say, section of your business, and usually we are the conduit if, let's say, the normal avenues doesn't work. So if you have any questions, please feel free to push it to the question section. We'll try to answer it at the end of the webinar. So as mentioned, today we have something pretty special and pretty different from let's say the previous years. And also with Fronius, we have a few things which are different that we want to implement this year. So the first thing that you can see is actually our branding. So you guys are the first one in Australia basically looking at our new branding. So our presentation and also all our marketing will change to this new format, to those new colors. I'm actually a big fan. It looks like a minimalistic type of let's say displays and pictures. Maybe marketing will kind of come back to me because I said this, but I really like it because it's a lot of pictures, which is pretty much different from what we had before. The other part is also the training structure. So we want to change the different trainings that we have. So we have few ideas which will need a lot of feedback from you guys. So I highly encourage that you leave your feedback also at the end of the presentation. And there will be also a different part today, which I think you guys will like a bit, right? So let's start from the start, right, where everything is going with Fronius. So the first thing that we want to announce is the new training concept that we have. And that's where, as I mentioned at the start, we'll need a bit of your feedback. So of course, at Fronius, what people really like is when we do a lot of in-person trainings where we play with our inverter, we look at different setups, they like to come and meet with us, but we understand also that not everyone can come to our trainings. Maybe it's because of location. So that's a lot of feedback we got from last year. Last year, they said that they like to do online training. The thing is with online training, what we've seen is we don't want it to be too long, for example. We want it to be compressed, a few key points, and then from there, make it more enjoyable in a way. So definitely, if we look at the old school, old days or old school way of doing presentation, we have it pretty long and people start to fall asleep within the presentation, even when we do it in person. So we want to make sure that you guys have few key takeaways. And if you want to know any topics in, let's say, in more details and more specific, we can discuss that together. All right, so that's why we wanted to create this new presentation that we have ready for you guys. And also we have this webinar series, which I will describe a bit more again in details of what we're gonna cover in each of them in a way there. All right, so of course with new presentation and new ideas, we need participation, and basically we need your help, right? So one thing that we recommend when people join our webinar, which we are doing a trial throughout those 6 webinars that we are running, the first one is basically making sure that whatever device, which we usually recommend a laptop if possible, to make sure that you have a mic which works. Usually the mic from your laptop is fine, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys do a lot of Teams meetings or Zoom meetings, so joining via your laptop is fine. And phones also will do the job. So one thing which is important in a way is to be able to unmute yourself, So with our platform today, what we will do is when it comes to the participation section, right, we will allow people to unmute themselves, right? So feel free to put your hands up if you have something you want to share with us. So there will be opportunities today to basically have a quick conversation. The way to think about it is a bit like when you go on the radio, right? You're just calling. Of course, you don't need to turn your camera on. We just have a quick chat and see the different topics that you want to bring on the table. So this is where we're going with our training. So as you can see, it's pretty much different from what has been done before. So that's where we're changing it to make it more interesting for you guys, right? So now you're asking, I'm going to turn my mic on. I'm going to participate. What do I get? So in each webinar that we're gonna run, for every question that you basically unmute yourself and come online and have a chat with us, we will have certain amount of product that we will give away. Of course, we have, for example, this nice pouch. So if you go on site, for example, or for your installers, where you can put all your tools, right? You don't need to go back and forth. Of course, people who likes to go for runs or even on site, you never know, right? It is sometimes pretty hot and you don't want to get it in a tan, for example. That's how we have those t-shirts. Also, we have some jackets, the Nike Fronius jackets that we're gonna give away. It doesn't stop here. We have bags, we have also sunglasses. I'm pretty sure that will be perfect when you take your selfies for the STCs, for example, that you claim. And also we have this new MC4 tightening kit also. It won't be only those 6 items, but definitely will be more freebies that we will provide to you guys. And of course, we're always open if you want something else. If you already have the glasses, something that we are pretty open to. So as I mentioned, please feel free to participate in the session today, right? Feel free to unmute yourself. So we will tell you guys when you can unmute yourself, right? Or else it's going to be kind of like a night market where everyone is talking. So we will allow time for this part where it will be a bit a different setup. So those gifts will be given during the webinars, right? So we have 6 of them. So we will give them during the webinars itself, right? So let's look into what we're gonna cover in the next 6 webinars. So today we will talk about the Fronius history. So that's something which is very important, so that you know the product that you're using, where did it come from, and why Fronius made inverters, right? And also what's different from other brands out there, which is the product differentiation. Some of the unique concepts that we do or what we apply to our product, like the flow concept, which we will cover. And of course, we'll discuss what I'm doing at the moment, which is the webinar series, what you're going to cover. So this will be for this week. Again, we do need nice and short. Then we will move to the next part, which is the optimization part 1. So in the optimization part 1, we will cover basically what is the levelized cost of the energy, so LCOE, and why is it important to discuss that with your customer. We will show how basic design configuration works. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you go on a job, you want to quickly go and type in how to configure a system, and so that your team or your colleagues knows what will work and what doesn't work. So we will go through our configurator, and we also have a new tool which will come out, which is called a Solar Creator, which is already available, but it will give you a bit more information. We will just touch a bit on how do you get high yield in shading with a string inverter or Fronius inverter, for example. So that's what we will cover in the first part. In the second part, we will cover a bit more in details in terms of how to design a system effectively. So what are the best combinations that you can have on for example, a case study, which we will show you, and where to position the inverter to make your life easier and also to make the customer's life easier. Also, we will go in much more details in how the inverter deals with shading, and we'll look at how also you can increase your self-consumption, right? So there's basically a lot of different options available. What is basically first step, second step, and third step there, right? So those are the first 3 webinars. Then we will move to the reliability side of things, where we will talk about what's very unique with Fronius. We will talk about how the service works, what's the service procedure if something happens, and of course, why do we have active cooling in our units, right? So this is the reliability part 1. The second part, we'll go through some testing procedures that goes into Fronius. What do we do, which is different from what's on the market? We'll talk about compliance with new regulation. How did we do it, for example? And we'll talk about safety in general with our product. And finally, we'll cover basically the new product range, the Gen 24 Plus, how we can simplify your processes in general with this product, and also different solution and what's coming also in the future. So those will be the main part that we cover throughout the six webinars, right? So here I gave you a bit of an idea what we will cover. So I think I spoke for quite a bit of time there, right? So as I mentioned, it won't be only a one-way conversation. The next part is basically about the history of the company. So maybe one of you guys who wants to maybe put their hands up there. So you have a function on GoToWebinar to put their hands up. So I will unmute you, right? And you can maybe join me with a quick chat. Whoever knows or have heard about Fronius before, the story of Fronius before. Anyone who wants to unmute themselves, just put your hands up. Don't be shy. I know it's the first time. Anything which is the first time is always a bit tricky. So anyone here in the session has heard about the history of Fronius, where it all started? Who actually basically founded Fronius? Oh, we have a hand which is up. So we have someone from New Zealand, Lawrence Wallace. So what I will do is I will allow you to unmute yourself. Lawrence, maybe if you can just unmute your mic.
Here we go. Does that work?
Yes, you're with us. So Lawrence from New Zealand, right?
Yes.
What time is it in New Zealand?
6 p.m.
Oh, okay. So it's actually night time. It's not even like evening in a way. So you're joining us over dinner.
Yeah. I just saw the webinars and thought I need to upskill on my Fronius stuff. So I think Fronius started in some dude's shed in Austria, didn't it? Making welders. Was that right?
You're close. You're close. It's not welders, but it's something else. It's something else. Maybe the year. What year do you think we founded the company?
Oh, now you're asking a difficult question. I'm going to say 1916.
No, it's later.
Or was it in the 30s? Okay, I did read it in some promotional material somewhere. And I'm not going to use Google to find it.
That's the good spirit, right? That's what we really want. So the company was founded in 1945. So I think that's a good participation there. So maybe Lawrence, just a bit about you. So you're from New Zealand. You have your own company there. Is it right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Traditionally, we've imported a lot of solar water heating gear, and we've kind of got involved in the solar power market as well as the PV panels and gears become more cost effective. And I don't do a lot of grid tie stuff because I find that space has been done to death here. So I kind of focus on the off-grid stuff. So I AC couple a lot of Fronius units to Victron inverters and off-grid systems.
Oh, that's great. And what's your experience with this combination of using those two products together?
They go really, really well together.
So that's really good to hear. So maybe Lawrence, I know maybe you don't want to share it online, and sometimes it's not good for someone to ask it, but in terms of freebies, do you prefer a Nike jacket, or is there anything specific that you saw in the slide that you like there?
Yeah, jacket will be okay. I've already got a Fronius bag or two.
Okay, that's good to hear. That's good to hear.
So if those guys in 1940, whatever it was, didn't do a welder, what was it that they started with?
So that's basically the next step. That's what I'm going to cover. All right.
Okay.
Let's go. All right. So I can see there's some question, but we'll look at the question at the end. So thanks again, Lawrence, for participating here. So where did everything start? And also you're asking yourself, who is this man in this picture, right? I actually recently saw this picture, who is basically Mr. Gunther Fronius, who founded the company in 1945, right? So I think if you look at where it all started, it's always good for us and also good to talk to installers, because we kind of sometimes have the same beginning, right? Sometimes we start our own business at home, right? And then slowly grow your business, which is similar with Mr. Gunther Fronius. So after the World War II, it was really hard to pay people to repair generators or pay people in general, right? So he was repairing generators, and in exchange of his services, he was offered this basically small shed, right? And funny enough, that's where our one of our buildings, headquarters, is actually situated. I actually asked this question why we didn't keep the building and everything. I think there was so many development, and we started to expand the company, that we had to make some changes. But I always think about that. We should have kept this building in a way. And maybe it is actually here. Maybe I don't have all the information, but that's what I heard from our colleagues over there, right? So it started in 1945, and if you look in Pittenbark in a small shed, if you look at right now how many basically subsidiaries we have around the world. So every red dot there is basically a subsidiary. So we have one in Melbourne, right? And then we have, of course, a lot in Europe, and then a bit around the globe. Also, you see that we have also those blue dots, which are basically partners, right? So, for example, Fronius Australia looks after the solar division. But the thing is, Fronius doesn't do only inverters. They do also welders, as Lawrence mentioned before, right? So before we go into what exactly Fronius does, let's look at who actually is looking after Fronius. Of course, it started with Mr. Gunther Fronius in 1945. Then it got passed to his kids, who are Mr. Klaus Fronius and Brigitta Strauss, who then passed it down to Mrs. Elizabeth Strauss. And she is the current CEO, and she is the granddaughter of Mr. Gunther Fronius. So you can see that we are still a privately owned company. So we are kind of away from the banks, and we don't really depend on shareholders, right? So we kind of go towards our basically what the company vision has in a way there. So you can see how different it is from, let's say, different businesses around the globe. And one thing which really struck me working at Fronius, looking at sustainability, right? How it all started was with battery chargers, right, in 1945. And the story behind it was people were not driving their car on the weekend, right? And the batteries were getting deeply discharged. So people were throwing their batteries. And Mr. Gunther Fronius was seeing that as a waste. And from there, he said, look, let's look at a product which can basically charge those used batteries. And that's where it all started. But you can see that the sustainability part there was already implemented. It was already the core part of our business, right? And this is the thing, you look down the track with one of the quotes from Mrs. Elizabeth Strauss, our current CEO. She said that, okay, sustainability is firmly entrenched at Fronius. These days, we are more focused than ever on climate and environmentally friendly solution. And I'm pretty sure all of you guys can see that everywhere. And when people ask me sustainability, when I talk about sustainability with my friends, with my family, one thing which always come up is basically don't throw, like, be careful with what you're using. Are you using plastic? Is it sustainable or not? What type of gas you're using for your car? What type of transport you're using? This is really product focused, which is also core of our kind of our mantra also at Fronius, where we look at when we produce our inverter, how we make our inverter. But sustainability can also go with what we do as a business, right? And when you look at the business, we have basically 3 different business units. Some people don't like the word units, but I'm kind of okay with it because it's actually 3 different units acting in 3 different business segments. So it started in 1945 with perfect charging, right? So the charging, of course, was for cars, but nowadays it's more for logistics, so for your core forklifts, for example. 5 years down the track, 1950, we went to perfect welding, right? So in terms of welding machine, I usually say that we are the Rolls Royce of welding machines. Our friend at Tesla or SpaceX uses our welding technology for their spaceship, for example. And from there, in 1992, we went to the solar energy division, right? So you can see there, perfect charging, logistic, perfect welding. It's basically manufacturing. Solar energy is renewable. And if you look at the 2 picture on the picture on the left, on the right, those are consumers, right? This is where we use a lot of energy from the grid. So what we wanted to do with the solar energy is to basically offset that or to give back in a way this energy that we use. Everyone who is interested about welding, I can tell you, I can talk for ages. So let's not go there, or else we're going to spend a whole hour on the welding side of things. Well, if you look at those 3 divisions, it's basically one vision, and you will see this quite a lot on also our car, our advertising. It's basically 24 hours of sun. What does 24 hours of sun means? It means to be able to supply 100% renewable source of energy to basically the grid, right? And of course, as people working for Fronius, we have basically more than 5,500 people working every day towards this goal. We have a lot of partners, as you can see, all those blue dots were partners. We have a lot of subsidiaries, right? And also, of course, we have a lot of customers worldwide who uses our product. And I'm pretty sure you guys help us achieve this goal. Without you guys, this is not possible at all. Well, if you need to achieve, or if we want to achieve this 24 hours of sun, we need to look at what are the main pillars. Let's take this 100% renewable, well, let's put it on the side. Let's look at the current energy source, which is the current grid, right? If you look at the grid right now, it has been sustainable in a way. It has been able to evolve with time, with the needs, right? So we call this future proofing, because the grid has been designed more than 100 years ago, but still we were able to connect quite a lot of solar system to this grid. When you guys go back at home, you switch on the light is there. So it is reliable, right? Even if you have blackouts here and there, it is reliable most of the time. And finally, if you look at how dense the population is, we were able to optimize the consumption of this energy. Now, if we want to substitute this current energy with 100% renewable, we need to make sure that the 100% renewable solution is basically has those 3, or let's say has those 3 main pillars there, right? So how do we do this, right? Future proofing as an inverter manufacturer. When we go out there, we hear a lot about, okay, people want to have inverters installed to save money. That's their first step, right? And a solar system, it's basically a panel, an inverter, and sometimes a smart meter. So that's the current need. That's what they want right now, right? To save on their power bill. But down the track, their needs of the customer will change. For example, they will want to, for example, use the energy more efficiently. When they have excess, turn on the lights, or turn on my aircon, or turn on the washing machine. Or if they have an electric vehicle, charge my electric vehicle. As you can see, EVs are becoming quite popular now in Australia. Or my heater, cooler as an example. So you want to make sure that the product that you use are able to adapt with the actual needs. And that's something that we were able to achieve, for example, with our Snap inverter. Just to give you an example, our Snap inverter was first introduced in 2013, right? And with different DNSP needs, with different control of the inverter, we were able to adapt to these future needs with the product because we already thought in advance there. Of course, battery will become a big topic, so you need to be able to have options available for the customer also. Then looking about reliability. We've been making inverters since 1995 here, right? But in the solar energy, we've been 1992, right? And if you look at all those brands, I'm pretty sure some of you guys have seen some of those units or even installed some of those units there. So you have your IG series. I can tell you if ever one of you guys saw or see this Sunrise inverter on one of a side, because I can tell you there's still a few running out there. Please keep it. This is the perfect gym workout. This weighs, I think, around 20 kilos for, I think, a 1.5 kilowatt inverter. This is a transformer-based inverter. Some of the Australian company or guys here will also see this big Agilo. So we still also have few units out there still performing. And of course, you will see our new generation of inverters also, which we will cover throughout this webinar. But again, reliability is very important because for the customer, they put their trust in this product and they want to make sure that, of course, paying for the premium price, they have a good product which is there on the long term and which is there to last for a long time. Of course, one of the difference is that we are still made in Austria. Apologies for my accent. I always had to say that. I still can't pronounce it properly, even after hours of training. But we have basically procedures. We make everything in-house. All the boards, of course, we source all the components, but everything is assembled. And also the boards are manufactured in-house. So we have control if we need to change, let's say, setup or something is not efficient. As you can see, as borders are opening up, I hope we can bring a few of you guys also to Fronius International. The next part is optimization of your energy. So when it comes to optimization, of course, we highly recommend that people install a Fronius smart meter, because when you have a Fronius smart meter, you can see your consumption. And when you can see your consumption, you can make smart decisions. So for example, which is a feature which is inbuilt inside our inverter and also our Gen 24, our snap inverter, we can turn on and off different relays depending on how much excess. So for example, if I have excess of 1000 watts, turn my pool pump on or charge my electric vehicle. And of course, with the multi smart meter feature, you can monitor how much energy is going to this specific load. From there, the customer will make smart decision of what's the best, what makes more sense for them. Doesn't stop there. What we really want to fast track this 100% renewable is to be able to talk to different devices. So that's why we have different API or third-party application. We want to give flexibility to the installer and the customer to kind of do whatever they want in terms of talking to our inverters. Of course, this energy sector integration is becoming more and more present. Everyone has smart lights, smart appliances, electric vehicle. That's where it's really important to see how does your source of energy, which is your inverter, talks to those other devices. You want them to have options with being able to talk to different, let's say, devices, or you want to be basically stuck with one. So for us, it's open protocol with different options in the way. Of course, we have some product with Freecom. So some of you guys heard about the Fronius On Pilot. We also have the Fronius Watt Pilot, which we will discuss down the track. Just an average tip there. The annual mileage of 15,000 kilometers covered by a diesel car or generates around 2.6 tons of CO2 emission, which is, I think, pretty interesting, and most of which could be prevented by switching to an electric car with PV charging. So with more PV, I would say with more solar penetration and also more people getting electric vehicle, that's also will be the next step in a way. But definitely we'll cover what is possible and what we can do there. So the last part here is also some milestone, right, that we achieved. So it's always important to remind ourselves, right? So just in Australia, to give you a bit of a numbers, we've sold more than 500,000 units, right? And also we sold the snap inverter. I'm saying Gen 24 too often, I think, but the snap inverter, we've been selling the snap inverter since 2013. So with the quantity of product which is in the market and also the data that we have, the unit is performing really well. So it's not just testing in the lab, it's actually the unit being on the wall, working and having data about how the units are performing, which all of you guys can see from your own experience. Also, we are working on the Soul Hub solution. So this one also I can talk for ages about. This is our hydrogen solution. So basically what we do is we take water, we split hydrogen and oxygen, and we store the hydrogen, right? And that's where, for example, buses, as you can see in this example, can use that as a fuel. So you can also have cars, but this is the technology that we are also investing time and energy in. So if you think about the bigger picture, if you look at specifically also Australia being one who will be one of the biggest hydrogen exporter in the world, looking at the forecast, that's where you can create clean hydrogen using, for example, an inverter and panels to power those devices. So I can go in details with the electrolyzer and how it works if there's a bit of interest there. But basically, we have the whole solution. We can split it. We can split hydrogen and oxygen. And then from there, we store the hydrogen as a solution. And to power those devices, with the electrolyzer, we use our inverters. So that's how we produce the clean hydrogen there. So you can see the next step, the next move in a way, in terms of how we want to make sure we can produce sustainable energy there. And finally, we've been celebrating, it's not our 75 years anymore, it's actually 76 years, because we started in the 1940, right? Basically, it's our 75 years in the power conversion industry, which means that we have a lot of experience in terms of power conversion, which is inverters for solar, or if it is, for example, power converters for the battery charging or for the welders, for example. So it's always the same technology, AC to DC or DC to AC. So that's a bit of a summary and some key points for you, some key takeaways. Again, we're not going to go too much in details. We'll basically follow up with the other presentation. So what we'll do next is maybe we'll take a few questions which came in. Let's maybe have a quick look at the question there. All right, so there is one feedback where Jed mentioned that it can be a bit frustrating with the comms to work, and sometimes you're unsure what it is up to with the communication. So we are basically building or we have a video which is nearly ready for you guys, which is a quick video to show you some of those steps, and maybe some quick videos to also show different process or where people get usually stuck. So maybe a tips and tricks session can be something we can help. Not only that, right? It's not all about putting it back to you guys with videos, but also on our side with the setup. So not sure if you guys have done a bit of the Gen 24 setup. This is a bit of a different procedures. So we have, just to give you an example, we are at Gen 24. We have this WPS function because we got those feedback where you can just press a button on the inverter, press a button on your modem, and they just sync, right? So that's just one solution. Another question that came in, how many different loads can be controlled with one smart meter? So you just need one, so you just need one smart meter. Then from there, you can control up to 4 different loads. So you can turn on and off 4 different parts. So of course, you need to have priorities. You can say, okay, turn my hot water when I'm exporting 1000. Okay, turns on the hot water. I'm still exporting 400 watts, turn on my pool pump. I'm still exporting 300 watts on top of that, turn on my lights. I'm still exporting 400 on top of that, turn on my electrical, my EV charger, for example. So it gives you a bit of an idea what you can do. If you need more information about it, feel free to email our PV solution queue. So any pre-designed question, please feel free to send an email to PV Solution. So we'll just type that down here. So this is for any pre-install questions. Send it to all of you guys. All right. There's a good question from Hayden. If Fronius are making charging equipment, do you have a plan or do you have or plan to release an EV charger for a complete renewable solution? Yes. So this is what we call the white pilot. Let me quickly show you what I'm referring to. So we're aiming for Q3 or later this year, to be more exact. So this is a product which is already available in Europe, but we will bring a different version. So there will be a different version here, the Watt Pilot, for AVs. So there will be a solution there. So in the meantime, of course, if the customer has an EV, we have those energy management, but you can send a signal saying, hey, turn on or off, for example. But again, it depends on the app there. Will you be covering the Fronius setup app? So at this stage, if I remember correctly, we don't have exactly this one, but this is the thing, Marcus, we can take this back from on our side and do a session on this one. So maybe that would be actually good for us. Any of you guys wants to have a session of how to set up a snap inverter, for example, or how to set up a Gen 24? Maybe if you can just comment if you guys want to have a session like this. All right. Looks like a few people want to see how to commission a snap inverter and Gen 24. All right. Yeah, can definitely do that. So we'll add that to the schedule. So there's actually a last question which came up here. Is there plans to get the Gen 24 and snap inverter to communicate? Yes, it is in the plan. What we are prioritizing from what I got last time is basically Gen 24 to Gen 24 first. But again, that's not set in stone, but definitely there is a plan. If ever you need to do, well, this is the thing, when you say communicate, I guess that it's for export control. If you need to do export control, depending on the export control value, then you can have a switched-in device installed, and the switched-in device will control both units, right? If you want to monitor everything on your portal, then you don't need them to basically to talk to each other. You just need to put them online on the same portal. So I can go a bit in more details if required, but maybe if you want to send us an email about this, we can explain to you exactly how this works. But again, that's the solution. So also, if you want to have multiple Gen 24 on one side, it is possible. You need to have a switched in install. So maybe we should do a session on Gen 24, also what's possible and what's not possible. All right, looks like there's no more questions. Thanks so much for all those questions. Really appreciate all of you guys who came up today for the training. Thanks again. I saw that there was few hands up also to participate. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks again, Lawrence, for unmuting and participating. So we will send you some gear. So don't forget to maybe send a picture of you with the jacket. Thanks again, everyone, and have a good afternoon.